Let it begin.
Было все на белом свете, люди издавна повторяются. Было, есть и снова будет так.
Будет так, будет так, будет так, будет так. Было, есть и снова будет так.
Будет так.
Будет так.
Будет так.
Будет так.
Было, есть и снова будет так.
If you sat around a table and you said, right, what we need to do is we need to find some way of getting young people to see the world the way we want them to see it, so that by the time they become adults, they are completely following the reality we want them to believe in. Someone might say, well, they might not have it but you know the ideal thing? What we do is we have a system where we take children away from their parents at least 5 days a week, all day, from about the age of 4 and 5, and we have control of their minds until they're about 17, 18. That would be ideal. Well, of course, that's what happens. It's called the education system.
Yes.
And it's indoctrination. The whole system, because we have two hemispheres of the brain, the left brain, which is about words and this world reality and, you know, the perception of this reality. We have the right brain, which is where you get creativity, inspiration, and connection, and then you've got this corpus callosum, which connects the two. First of all, we use a fraction of our brains. Why is that? And the other thing is that what the system does is it turns out left brain prisoners. They run the system. And it does it by putting information through schools and colleges and universities into the left brain, which it then says at time of an exam, give me all that back. And if you tell me what I've told you well enough to believe, then you'll pass the exam and you'll be very successful. Anyone that takes that information into the right brain and puts their spin on it, or questions it, or sees through it, and puts that in the exam, they are perceived as a disruptive influence in the classroom.
Yes, they are.
And so what happens is, for you to become a doctor, overwhelmingly a politician, a journalist, someone often in industry, all these areas that control the system.
The professions.
The professions.
Yeah.
Lawyers.
Yes.
I mean, on and on we go. You have to have gone through your young life constantly taking information into your left brain and regurgitating it out on exam papers. To become a teacher, you have to go through that process. Then you go through teacher training college where you're taught how to do it to others, and then you're let loose on the children. Yes. The whole system is run by left brain prisoners. And if you look at the school system, things like music and art that stimulate this side of the brain, the uniqueness, they are constantly cut back in favour of left brain curriculums. And this is systematic. I have to get this over to people. This is not systematic at the level of, people who administer it into reality. It is coldly calculated in the shadowy areas where these concepts first come from. Yeah. And they know what they're doing.
Yeah, these examinations, what's happening is that, to fit in, to be part of the so-called in crowd, you have to reconfirm the beliefs of the hierarchy.
Exactly.
The ancient kingdom of Tibet, situated high in the Himalaya mountains. Tibet is a culture based on compassion, totally at odds with the doctrine of the Antichrist. The spiritual and secular leader of Tibet, His Royal Highness, the Dalai Lama, won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1989 for his continued policy of non-violent resistance of the communist Chinese government, who illegally took control of Tibet more than 40 years ago. Tibet is being systematically destroyed by America's most favored nation, communist China. Buddhist monks are being slaughtered, and there is wholesale torture of nuns and monks who defy the Chinese military and follow the pacifist, anti-war teachings of the ascended Buddhist masters.
My brother-in-law and I were arrested together and marched around in front of our village. Then the Chinese shot him in the head, and his blood splattered all over me. The Chinese said, "So you call for His Holiness the Dalai Lama and call on America for help. But where are they? Will anyone help you? If you obey China, your path will be smooth. If you don't, watch what happens to these two."
The Tibetan people are suffering immeasurably under the Chinese. Countless beatings and killings. And though the Chinese say there is freedom of religion, they don't allow us to practice our faith.
Tera dongyadan sen hyoti jole changre do. Changse sen dongyadan ju kona kangbele cha den de cha ge yorwal. Ande kanje ji de de. Tanda tija de ngom bu chayo.
Ja de raban. De la de jo man. Ni ta la ge do si de ni na sa shu jo la si a. Do ha. 두알라. 데디라 두었다. 사디라 줘다요래. 두알라. 어디? 사디 마도 조세데 마요. 자이고를 잡아셔래. 고간다나도 고 배축스 거나서 된다. 에 잡아셔네 같이 해줘.
잡아셔네 드네 마람비 수고 찾아 마람비. 마람비지 샤레 요르 샤레 tilya kyangja dangna yi shaje kashi ge jawa mi shiyor nita다냐 본들 시지 한 지레야 jawa 휴지 지 나와 로규냐도 지레야 자레 타고 딘 본부딘 두도 ja시 미숨 서가 쉬어 한 진네디 봐 지야 수고 가서 로다지 직 체면나야 체면다 진짜 접전당서 열봐 jawa다 딘지 휴지 님 숨을 좀 부탁해요.
양습제 줄을 봐지. 다 놀랐어래. 벤스지 요래. 이때 고사요래. 그 셈을 제대. 셈티스게 되게 잡으시다래. 셈을 제대나 나살 벤도요래. 되게 매지. 매동하고 봐. 매당. 매지 보고 말다. 내려내. 랑딩네 도 샤다메도 회사 제셔 회사 쇼. 사람자 다 두에 요마래. 이내 칼리를 슈라 매지고만. 저랑 좀 하고 제쇼. 저랑 된다 말에 그 집에 된다라. 도중다래 체질에 야고 시다래 엄마. 삼루를 제쇼 다야 아이네 대바 큐르. 롤러부 제쇼 그 낭말에.
Campaign is a worldwide movement of volunteers who wish to highlight the illegal killings and imprisonment of Tibetan people. The Free Tibet campaign displayed flags during the state visit of the Chinese Premier in London. The Free Tibet flags were confiscated by British police officers. The peaceful protesters were often arrested and dragged away for no apparent reason. Some were even assaulted and beaten by British police officers.
I'm not young, haven't got long hair in dreadlocks, and I'm not covered in rings all over the show. I've always felt strongly about Tibet and about what's going on in China on the political front. The fact that they've still got detainees in prison who were at Tiananmen Square 10 or 11 years ago, that is bloody awful, and something has to be done. And I think in a case like this where the government won't do anything, it's always down to the people to do something instead.
Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet! Free Tibet!
The police officers carrying out these illegal arrests are mostly members of Freemasonry. Freemasonry is more than just a secret society. Freemasonry is actually a religion. Freemasons pray to a tri-pantheon god, one facet of which is the warmongering Baal deity. Freemasonry is the most popular occult religion amongst police officers, judges and barristers such as Mr. Tony Blair. The spiritual master and head of state in Tibet is the Dalai Lama, who has written many excellent books promoting the benefits of meditation and compassion. Even though the Dalai Lama is a man of peace, he speaks good English and is recognized for his statesmanship. He was refused an audience with Queen Elizabeth of Great Britain. However, the British royal family, who have members that are active Freemasons, greeted the leader of the murdering communist Chinese government with a full state ceremony. Clements Kuby and Mike Lemley are two filmmakers who have made excellent documentaries about the tyrannical genocide in Tibet. It is clear from these films that Kurt Weidemann of the Washington State Department utterly denies the evidence of genocide against Tibet.
Official U.S. policy has consistently regarded Tibet as a part of China, although an autonomous region within China.
My crime was that in 1959, I signed a statement saying that Tibet was an independent country. For that, I spent 17 years in Chinese prisons and concentration camps.
We have no evidence at this point that the Chinese government is engaged in any policy or in any actions aimed at wiping out the Tibetans, or in short, reflecting a policy of genocide either against the Tibetan people themselves or against their culture.
I mean, Tibetans are no longer wearing Tibetan clothes. Tibetans are not talking Tibetan. All the Chinese wear Chinese. It is the blue uniform, everybody. And the monasteries are no longer a monastery. And no monks are there.
They used to have mobile clinics which would go from village to village and just get the women together and get them sterilized. Or even women who were pregnant in their 9th month were made to abort their children.
At one point in this interview, we see that his mind control programming breaks down.
What about self-determination for Tibetans?
On the BBC Newsnight programme, we see a Chinese government minister also displaying signs of heavy mind control.
Can you explain to us on the political situation why there has been no response from your government to the Dalai Lama's proposal in Strasbourg of nearly 3 years ago now about an arrangement between him and fellow Tibetans and your government?
In 1988 in Strasbourg, the Dalai Lama proposed to make Tibet a democratic political entity governed by itself, which maintains relations of alliance with China. And what does it mean?
Well, it's suggesting, he's suggesting that they be given autonomy in internal affairs, that they give to you
I just
control.
Quote what he said in his proposal. It's nothing new. We think it's nothing new, but another version of the statement that China holds only suzerainty, not sovereignty over Tibet. We heard of this kind of clamoring at the beginning of this century in order to divide China. That phrase also means that the Dalai Lama advocates Tibetan independence. And we have repeatedly said that China's sovereignty over Tibet can never be denied. Neither independence nor semi-independence or disguised independence will be tolerated. Thirdly, the Dalai Lama's proposal favored transforming Tibet into a peace zone or a buffer state among the great powers through demilitarization or neutrality. But a peace zone or neutral zone involves the problem of state sovereignty and international safeguards. So it is out of the question for a country to establish in one of its regions a peace zone or a neutral zone with its neighbors.